Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a DIY antenna using car horn. I'll use signal cables as the conductive wiring for this antenna project. First, I use a ruler to measure the length of cable I need. Then, I use a marker to mark the cutting position on the cable. Next, I use cutting pliers to cut the cable to the measured length. After that, I cut another cable piece with the same length to prepare the remaining connections for the DIY antenna. In the next step, I strip the insulation from the signal cable to prepare it for the connection process. First, I carefully cut the outer insulation using a utility knife to expose the inner core wire and the shielding mesh inside. Here I have an F5 connector, and I attach it to the signal cable to create the antenna connection end. After installing the connector, I cut a small piece of heat shrink tubing to protect the connection and make the cable look cleaner. Next, I apply heat around the tubing using a flame, so it shrinks tightly around the signal cable. After that, I repeat the same process with the second signal cable. For the remaining ends of the signal cables, I also strip the insulation the same way as before to prepare them for connection to the car horn. After that, I add another layer of heat shrink tubing onto both cable sections to improve insulation and better protect the connections. Once the wires are positioned correctly, I use pliers to tighten the connections securely so the cables stay firmly attached and do not loosen during use. Next, I slide the heat shrink tubing down over the wire connection points. Then, I carefully apply heat around the tubing, so it shrinks tightly around the connections. After finishing, the connection between the signal cables and the car horn looks much cleaner and more secure. Next, I have a cable TV signal splitter, and I'm going to use it as the central connection unit for this DIY antenna. First, I connect the two signal cables to the splitter. This splitter helps combine the signals from both sides of the antenna together. Once connected, the antenna wiring system starts looking much more complete. In the next step, I use a wooden board as the base for the antenna. The wooden base helps the entire antenna stand more firmly during real-world use. Next, I install an L-shaped metal bracket onto the base to act as the support holder for the antenna structure. After that, I use a drill to install 2 screws. Next, I bend the signal cables into a shape close to a right angle, so the antenna can fit more neatly onto the wooden base. After that, I attach the car horn onto the L-shaped bracket to secure the main antenna body onto the support stand. Once installed, the antenna begins to look much more complete. Next, I apply a small amount of hot glue onto the signal splitter. Then, I attach the splitter securely onto the wooden base to keep the wiring cleaner and more stable during use. Next, I use a longer signal cable to serve as the connection wire between the DIY antenna and the TV. I connect the F5 connector to one end of the signal cable. Then, I wrap electrical tape around the connector to improve insulation and make the connection more secure. For the other end of the cable, I attach a TV antenna jack to create a direct connection to the television's antenna input. After completing the cable connections, I install the cable onto the DIY antenna. At this point, the entire antenna system is fully assembled, with the car horn acting as the main signal receiving component. Now I'm going to test the antenna in real-world conditions. Now I'm going to switch channels on the TV to check whether the device can receive signals without an antenna connected. As you can see, the screen displays a no signal message, meaning that no television channels are being received at all. Next, I connect this homemade antenna to the back of the TV for a real-world test. Immediately after connecting it, the channels appear almost instantly. The picture quality looks quite clear and stable, showing that the antenna works better than I originally expected. I continue switching through multiple channels to test the signal stability further. The channels display smoothly, and the signal remains stable during use. To test it more accurately, I remove the antenna and reconnect it one more time. As soon as I disconnect the antenna, the signal disappears almost immediately. And when I reconnect it, the channels return and display normally again. This proves that this DIY antenna can actually work effectively in real-world conditions, even though it was built mostly from old parts and recycled materials.
Tiêu chí đầu tiên trong sản phẩm xanh để tôi chọn sự thoải mái cũng như là chi phí qua cái quãng thời gian 20 năm nay thì bỗng dưng mình nhận ra là wow, những cái xanh thì nó còn tốt hơn cả nhiều, và ngược lại nữa thì so sánh đắt hay rẻ chi phí nhiều hay ít chúng ta phải so sánh tương quan với giá trị.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next DIY videos.